How come most startups fail, even when we have more tactics and strategies than ever before? Join the bedside chat of an entrepreneurial couple as they share what it takes to create a business with ease and in flow.
Hey there, here's Natasha Q.
And here's Jachym.
Welcome to the 17th episode of the Biz in Flow Bedside Chat. It's awkward that you're taking my moment away, Jachym.
I thought we can mix it up.
Yeah, you can, but you mix.
I didn't discuss it with you. I just spontaneously barged in there. So what did you learn? Tell me.
Oh my goodness. Today was a funny day. It felt as if we spent half the day trying to decide what to do with YouTube.
Yeah, we spent quite a bit of time trying to brainstorm YouTube, and we kind of got a bit stuck, and it was a bit weird.
I don't know what Jachym ate just now. Not really supposed to eat before bed, but I think he consumed... Almonds. That's not even sugar. You're acting super hyper. And usually that's my role. But anyways, it's interesting about YouTube because we are spreading a lot of content through lots of social media channels. And so YouTube is just another one of them. And it's in a format of lots of videos. And the dilemma here really is that there is such a big range of videos out there. And if you want to talk about best practices, there's a whole science to it. There's lots of research you can do into the keywords. You can go really nuts. I've seen videos of people teaching you how to do YouTube videos properly, where you look at other people's tags, you look at the length of the video, the thumbnail, the topic, or what do you call it when it's the title, and you also look at their views and when their viewers kind of fall off, as in they stop watching, and you kind of zoom into that milliseconds, like what happened there, what turned the audience off, and why are they leaving, and it just gets a little bit
OCD.
Yeah, and I'm sure that if you actually do all this work, it probably might work in your favor, but I don't really feel like doing that for our business. And then, so that's one end of the spectrum where it's insane, meticulous, detailed numbers, just massive amount of research. And then on the other end of the spectrum, where lots of YouTubers are doing great, they're just posting videos of them eating or just goofing around and being, in my opinion, really boring and shallow and not even talking about anything that's remotely interesting. Yet they have like hundreds of thousands or sometimes even millions of subscribers, and it's just insane.
And so we were trying to fit into one of those ends. We're thinking about the SEO and the tags and the titles and all of that. And we kind of got stuck. And when we took a walk, one of our famous walks, or a strategy session, I was like, well, what if we just forgetting all the stuff that we looked up and all the SEO and all the things, and just what happens if we just play with it? How will we use it? And that's when kind of the idea started coming, and we went back to being more in flow, as before it felt kind of rigid in a sense and not really clear, and now we're just gonna experiment really. And it just kind of brought up this whole thing that we can get really stuck when we take things super seriously or personal, or we get very attached to it and to have to work in a certain way. And actually it seems to me that the most creative things get created when we don't care, when we play more, and that's been very useful learning.
It's really easy to get stuck when you look at people's best practice, or when you look at people who are making it. And of course, sometimes, we stick our head out from our turtle shells and we go, who's crossed the finish line, who's doing well out there. So you take a look at them, and then you realize, heck, like there are so many different teams or schools of thought, and each school of thought might not sit well with us. So then we're thinking, okay, should we just find the middle ground? And the middle ground just doesn't feel quite right, because then it's a diluted version of everything, and it just doesn't make sense anymore. Because for someone, maybe it just is their life calling to eat like lots of junk food in front of a camera. Maybe that's their calling, but it's really not ours, right? Or maybe it's someone else's, I don't know, say their strength to teach almost like in a PowerPoint presentation kind of style, and that's really not our forte either. So there's no really use to mimic someone's, I guess, perfect system or framework when it's clearly theirs. And it's interesting that, sometimes like Jachym and I did today, we were so fixated on giving you guys what you want in the format that you would prefer. But then it just made us realize that perhaps the reason why you're even listening to this podcast is because it's like a natural flow. It's who we are. We're just lying in bed, ready to go to bed. And yet we still give you so much value every single day.
And we haven't just gotten hung up on the thing about what you might want, but also on how to get your attention. Because when I created a YouTube channel way back, and I upload some hypnosis videos, and I just left them there, and I would keep the channel kind of going, but it was later when I wasn't really doing hypnosis anymore. And the videos that did really well were the ones with hypnosis in the title, and they had thousands and thousands of views, while the other videos that I created later, which seemed to me a bit more valuable because they were sharing insights and not just performing some hypnosis trick, they didn't really do as well. And it just kind of showed me how it can be quite important to be in a market where people actually are looking for that stuff. So that's how we came about this whole SEO thing and trying to match into it. But yeah, so we'll keep you posted on what we're gonna come up, what new ways or creative ideas we have for the YouTube channel. And really for me, it's become much more an experiment than we have to make this work and we have to attract this kind of amount of people and we have to have the right titles and all of that. That can all come. We have seen it with the podcast as well, that some titles do better than others, and that's good information to have. And if we can focus on that, if we can place that in, basically you get the creative focus, you get the creative flow first, and once the creative flow is going, then you can lead that energy into a certain direction. You can tweak it, you can help it really benefit the whole business as well. So Nadia, what did you learn from the experience with YouTube today?
One thing that really stood out to me was about the ego.
Mm-hmm.
And
tell me more.
It's actually about you. And about certain emotions that you don't want to dip into for the sake of creating drama and creating something that others would like get really addicted to, because there's one YouTube channel, it's by the Social Media Examiner. They're really one of the leading sites on social media and how to use it and all the techniques. It's very, very, very practical. Really good podcast too if you want to check it out. But they've started a YouTube channel, and the CEO, I think, of the company, he actually created it from, I guess, kind of like a reality TV format, where there's a goal they want to, that the company wishes to reach. The employees and the CEO himself, they are the cast, and then from there they're all trying to reach that goal. And at the end of each episode, they kind of do a little preview of the next scene or the next whatever is going to happen next, but they don't try to tell you everything. So they kind of leave you on a cliffhanger, and you're like really looking forward to finding out what's going to happen next. And it grew into this huge project with so much engagement, and literally people emailing in and commenting, saying and asking how can they help. And the goal is to, I think, to get several thousand people onto one of their, it's not a course, but one of their live events. And so people got really attached to helping them, and so many people were watching the show. I actually checked it out, and I thought it was a bit boring, but it had the whole like music, it had the whole plot, and people were playing their roles. And I realized that, every good story or every good show has its ups and downs. The characters usually are flawed in some way, and they have this goal, but they never quite get it. And then it's quite an emotional turmoil. They fail a lot, and then you kind of feel for them, and then they're like bloody and getting back up, It kind of has that sort of feeling to it. And no matter kind of where we are in life, we kind of still resonate with that kind of story, with that flawed hero. It's in Hollywood, it's in reality shows, it's everywhere. And I was looking at that formula because I know it works. That's how TV works, that's how movies work. And I was trying to recreate that for our YouTube channel. I was like, Jachym, what's our goal here? What are our ups and what are our downs? I wasn't trying to create a plot. I was trying to highlight what we already go through, and to see if we can document that and let that be our content, I guess, to have you, the viewers on YouTube, see like all the ups and downs and the vulnerability and the honesty and the emotions. And then Jachym told me that it didn't quite feel right with him.
Because for me personally, I didn't have an interest to, or I don't have really an interest to go down those kind of darker emotional turmoils. I've been there a lot before, and I don't really enjoy it. And recently I've been on a cleanse, and I kind of start putting those kind of things behind, and so I don't want to put the focus on that. And as we have seen today, where we thrive in is more the lightheartedness, more the being in flow, and less the kind of we're gonna sweat tears and blood and all of that. It's gonna be super emotional and all of it.
How do you sweat tears? Like,
how do you sweat blood?
Don't you sweat? Okay, never mind.
It's a saying. I don't know about the tears, but the blood. And it's just not something, even if I put the intention out to create something like that, it might set me up in a direction that I don't want to go in, even if it would be successful and all of that. I don't really care. For me, what's much, much more important is my inner peace, is staying in a good kind of emotional field and not make it into this drama story.
And I think with what it is that we are sharing, and sometimes I almost feel like we're teaching, it's good to remember that sometimes people want to get tickled intellectually. So in some ways you can please the ego, but that doesn't mean that it's really getting anywhere. And sure, it might be one of the most powerful and magnetic tactics to use, right? To have the cliffhangers, to have the conflict, to have the drama, to have all the pieces that make an extremely emotional ride and story. But maybe that's not what we really want to live out for the sake of getting your attention.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it feels a bit counter to what our name's about, which is biz in flow. It's not biz in drama. So what we are kind of more focusing on is the flow. And flow is not, when you're in flow, there's not really much drama going on.
Exactly, and that's kind of the point, which is really funny.
What?
I think that's funny.
What's funny? Did I miss something?
No, it's funny that, like, we're funny characters to begin with, but it's funny that, like, we're peaceful people, and when conflict comes up, we really don't want to blow it out. We just want to resolve it, make peace with it, deal with it, and move on. It's like, you know, we all have that friend who maybe has had a fight or is in a bad place of their life, and they just can't, like, stop talking about it. Say things get slightly better, but there's still something to complain about. Like, something is still wrong, and that's really not our personality. So it's funny to see that, you know, our storyline, at least right now, isn't the best for a blockbuster movie. Maybe in the past, if you
the past it would have been.
Yeah, if you read our bios or our personal stories on the bizinflow.com website, you'll see that we've been through a lot, even though we're both quite young. But at this point in life, we're not at that place where we really want to attract that. And it's funny because, well, I think this is the funny part, because I was just looking at you and I was so concerned when you shared that with me. I was just, like, looking at you and I said, but Jachym, like, we need to be human. Like, are we suffering enough? Like, will people relate to us? Like, don't we need to, you know, connect emotionally to you listeners and be like, we understand where you're at, and, like, sometimes we go through it too, but we don't want to stay there, you know? And we have a lot of tools to get out of that place. But I was really so concerned. I was like, yeah, are we going to be relatable? Like, if we don't keep on sharing our pitfalls and the bad stuff, like, are we, like, having a bad enough of a life and moments? Like, that was funny.
That's pretty funny, yeah, because, I mean, there's a whole bunch of shows out there that are not really about the suffering and the sorrow and all of that. They just focus more on the positive as well. I think you're very relatable just on this podcast, and you don't sound like you're in a big bad nightmare every time you do the podcast. So.
Yeah. It's really funny because here we're really trying to share with you what it's like to, you know, become successful on your own terms, on our terms. And yet, like, I got caught up in, you know, the blockbuster recipe, and how there must be a lot of drama and suffering and a ton of failure. Like, you gotta watch us fail a ton of times in order to like us, to root for us, you know? Like, you can't root for us if you haven't seen us fall on our faces. And I thought that was just so strange that, you know, we can just believe a recipe, and then that would have been the road. Like, that would have been, like, I think it would have been a bad show. It would have been Jachym and I trying to, like, screw up so that we're like, we're so relatable now. Like, they'll love us more. Like, oh, that's messed up.
All right, I think it's time to wrap up and sleep.
So, Jachym, this time you can summarize what we talked about tonight.
Really?
Yeah.
I just remember YouTube.
Well, I really hope that you enjoyed this episode and had a bit more takeaway than Jachym's goldfish brain did. A little bit about content, strategies, how you want to show up, whether it's by someone else's, you know, blockbuster recipe, or is it really going to be your storyline and your plot and something that you feel good about? Because how often do we write content, write a story, act in a way that's fitting to something that people expect? And maybe if we break out of that box, we'll actually stand out more, and maybe you'll just actually connect to those who really, really need you.
Wow, that's pretty good summary, I must say.
Yeah, Jachym's really lazy when it comes to this stuff, but I'll let it go. If you want to tell me...
Do you want to make a drama out of it?
Wait a second.
Record it and put it on YouTube?
Wait a second. If you, listeners, have an idea of how I can punish Jachym for being such a lazy bum, on this podcast, on this episode, please comment and give me 5 stars, okay?
Hashtag J, hashtag Team J.
Yeah, give me a bunch of stars. I'm suffering over here. Anyways, I hope you'll relate to us, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. So have a good night, and we're off to bed.
Good night.